What's up, guys, and welcome back to Counter Steer Garage. As most of you know, I'm a car chief for a pro racing team in SRO Touring Car America. You guys know this because I vlog the living shit out of it. If you didn't know that, what are you doing with your life? What are you watching on here? Because clearly it's not the coolest motorsports channel that exists. Anyway, stick around to the end of the video. I'll put a little link to the playlist right up here on the screen so that you can click it and you can see all of the vlogs that I'm talking about. You could also, I'll put a little link in the description too. Make it easy for you to find all of the other cool stuff that might pique your interest. When I'm vlogging, I'll admit, I'm not doing a great job at explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's happening, how the day progresses. So I'm going to attempt to compile all of that into this video, give you a really clear idea of what it is we do throughout the weekend on a day-by-day basis, what our full days look like, and how it all kind of works into the grand scheme of the weekend. So if you've ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes with a pro racing team, stick around for the next couple of minutes because this is the anatomy of a race week. Now, everybody knows Sunday is race day, but our race week actually starts 6 days prior. Monday is a bit of a personal prep day. I'm home, I'm packing, I am doing laundry, I'm cleaning the house, I'm making sure all my cameras are operational, I'm locking windows, locking doors, and just kind of getting everything sort of ready for me to be away for 6-7 days. At some point on Monday afternoon, the crew will get together on either a conference call or a Zoom or something like that and just kind of go over the details, the schedules, the roster of the weekend, just to make sure that we're all on the same page before anybody gets on an airplane. And that's pretty much Monday in a nutshell. I know it sounds uneventful, but it's kind of the busiest day of the week. Tuesday. Happy Taco Tuesday, by the way. Tuesday is generally our travel day. I am about an hour and a half away from the New York City airports. So it's about an hour and a half drive. I've got a little trick I'll share with you guys. I park on the streets near the airport for free. And then I Uber to the airport. It's usually $8-10. And yeah, basically I pay $8 or $10 to park for an entire week. It's about $40 a day if you pay the parking garage to pay. So that's my little trick. Don't use it or else I won't be able to find parking the next time I go. But maybe I should cut that. Anyway, so I drive to the airport. I get there. I have TSA pre-check because I spend my entire life on airplanes. So I fly through TSA pre-check and I get to my gates. Got to walk all the way to the gate. You got to make sure it's there. And then you go get a snack. Why do we all do that? Anyways, board the plane. Most of our races are on the East Coast. The farthest we go aside from Sonoma is Central Time in Austin. So most of the flights are 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. That flight to Sonoma is brutal. 6 hours, 6.5, something like that. But generally it's like a 2 to 3 hour flight. So once we land, the team manager will have figured out flights so that we all land generally about the same time. So we will pretty much all meet up at the baggage claim or in the lobby, something like that. We'll grab our rental Pacifica because what else would you use? And we head to the hotel. If we get there early enough and everybody's there and we're all squared away, there's not much else to do. And our load-in day on Wednesday generally starts later. So if we're going to go out, if we're going to have fun, if we're going to do something, Tuesday night is kind of the night to do that. So you'll see us out at dinner. Sometimes we'll find an indoor karting place or, anything like that. If we're in a cool city like New Orleans, this is the night that we're going to go out and check out the shit show at Bourbon Street. And yeah. Generally, we're in bed before midnight, most of us. And ready for Load-In Wednesday. Wednesday, load-in day. So this is the day that we unpack the trailer. We set up the awnings, we pull all the cars out, we lay down the floor, we set up our workstations. This is usually our day to drag the timing stand down to the pit lane and set that up as well. The cars should be pretty well prepped from the shop, but we do a wipe down because they've been in the trailers for a week. Usually Wednesday is a good day to send the cars through tech. Now you've seen this on the videos. You may be wondering, what the heck are they doing? They didn't even race yet and the car's getting scrutineered. So the early in the week tech, that Wednesday tech, we do this because there are slight variations between our equipment and theirs. So all of our cars will be set up at the shop. I'm talking ride heights, camber, tow, all of that stuff will be set up at the shop, loaded onto the trailers and transported. So the main reason that we go through tech on Wednesday is to make sure that our numbers match the tech numbers. Because at the end of the day, when we podium, it's not our equipment that's measuring the cars for compliance, it's theirs. So we want to check on their equipment that the car is compliant. So that's why we run the car through tech early. If there's an issue, you'll remember at CODA, we put Jeremiah's car through tech and we found out it was 80 pounds too heavy because it was still on an old BOP or balance of performance minimum weight. So stuff like that gets exposed at that point, and it gives us a chance to correct it before we go on track, and also gives us a chance to make sure that our cars are compliant and that our equipment is measuring the cars properly. So that's why we run through tech on Wednesday. So all of the setup work really should have been done at the shop. So there won't be much mechanical work to be done on the cars. So it's more of just an unloading and a prepping day. Thursday is a test, so we want to have the cars pretty much ready to go Wednesday night before we leave. Thursday, test day. Test days are optional, and I believe they cost extra from the regular entry fees. It's like a track day, so it's an open lapping testing day. We use it as kind of an extra practice session with our team. There's not a whole lot of distinction between testing and practice. They're both days where the driver's going to get a ton of seat time, and the techs and the engineering team are going to get a ton of data. So testing is really just an extension. They're extra practice days, extra testing days, whatever you want to call them. We don't get a whole lot of time. It's 2 30-minute sessions. So the drivers have to be very communicative to our engineering team to make sure that we're all on the same page, we're all speaking the same language, and if a change needs to be made, it's made. We don't want to run the car 2 consecutive sessions without any changes made. We want to try something. So the drivers have to speak to the engineers. Everybody's got to be on the same page. We all got to kind of work together to try something and see if we can get the car to be as good as it can be. So during these test sessions in my videos, you'll see we will pit in the cars, we'll box the cars, and we'll check tire pressures. Now we do this because we set and log the cold tire pressures, and then we send the car out on track. And as the car's going around the track, the tires are getting warm, which means the air is expanding and the pressure is increasing. During the race, we cannot bring the car in and check tire pressures. So our goal is to get the starting pressures to the point where when the tire heats up and expands, the pressures are exactly where we want them to be for the race. So we'll put the driver in and we'll check those tire pressures. And then once we have that data, we're going to go back and we're going to analyze. We're going to see how much the tire inflated just from warming up, and we'll adjust our starting pressures for the next session based on that data collection. So it's really cool, and it's super important for the success of the weekend. So after the track goes cold and those test sessions are done, we'll bring the cars back and they'll go through a full checklist, meaning we're going to nut and bolt check and fuel and tires and all that kind of stuff. Basically, we have a paper checklist that we go down. Not everybody uses it, but I live and die by the checklist. It's a way to not only keep track of what I'm doing. I've been doing this long enough that I don't need a paper checklist, but When a car goes off on track, your first thought is, what did I do? It's just like packing for the weekend. I've done it a million times, but I still use a packing list, so I make sure I don't forget something. So it's similar to that. So the cars get that full checklist. They get tires and fuel and a wipe down, and they basically just get fully prepped for Friday. Friday practice. This is an official practice session. The only distinction between testing and practice is that practice is an official session, so the data that the car collects on track has to go to the series. Other than that, it's more of the same. We are testing tire pressures, collecting data, having the drivers run laps, and just all around getting the most amount of track time possible. Just like Thursday test, we do not want to send the car on track with the same setup twice. So we want to try some stuff. We want to see what changes do, how it affects the car, how the driver likes it, how the driver dislikes it. We have another 2 sessions. That second session is super important. It is our last running before qualifying. So anything that we do to the car, we need to have it squared away by the second practice session. We should have all of our engineering data kind of squared away. We should know what our cold tire pressures are, and it's not uncommon to have each tire start at a different pressure, but the idea is when they warm up, they're all going to warm up at different rates because some tracks have more left turns, some tracks have more right turns, some tracks are more front tire heavy, rear tire heavy, whatever. So it's not uncommon to have all 4 tires set to something different when they're cold. But when they warm up, they should hit that hot target, which I'm not going to tell you what it is because that's a secret.
You guys don't get to see the numbers.
But they should all come up to that hot target and flat line if we've done everything correctly. Before we leave for the night, the cars again are going to get a full checklist, full prep, tires, fuel. We're doing stickers on the front now because tomorrow's qualifying. We never want to get there in the morning and have to do work. So all of the work that we're doing, we want as much of it done the night before. So the car's getting fueled, it's getting those sticker tires on the front, it's getting a full checklist, it's getting a setup changes if we're doing setup changes, and a wipe down, and just kind of have everything kind of squared away and ready to go because tomorrow is Go Fast Day. Saturday is qualifying and race 1. We do 2 races, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So qualifying is in the morning. The race is usually in the afternoon. We usually get a good gap between them, 3 or 4 hours sometimes. Occasionally it's like an hour, hour and a half. But generally we have 3 or 4 hours in between qualifying and race 1. So qualifying first thing in the morning. As I said before, Thursday night, we want to make sure the cars are squared away and ready to go when we leave on Friday night. So we get there Saturday morning, and it's really just go time. Get the drivers in the cars. We have a 15-minute qualifying session. So if you think a track, normally it's like a 2.5-minute lap. Most of the tracks we go to, the out lap, which is the lap when they exit pit lane, which is generally a slower lap. You use it for tire warming, stuff like that. Out lap could be anywhere to 3.5 minutes. And then, you got enough time for like 1 or 2, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 flying laps, but you really don't have a whole lot of time to work with. You're out there with 30 or so other cars. So there's traffic. You have to have your intervals. It's a very, very hectic session just because it's so condensed into 15 minutes. So you've got to, once the car rolls on track, our job is, as mechanics, is sort of done. We do still have to feed information to the drivers and things like that, but once that car rolls out, it's really up to the driver to space himself out properly, get enough of a gap ahead, enough of a gap behind that he's not interacting with other cars on track when he's trying to set the fastest lap possible. So qualifying, the goal is to set the fastest lap, because the fastest lap starts you at the front of the field for race 1. So that's qualifying. It's, you run it as fast as you can. This is an 11/10 session. Don't save the tires. Just send it as hard as you can send it. and see where you land. At the end of that 15 minutes, the top 3 cars from each class are called to Parc Fermé, which is French for closed park. I don't know. Don't ask. It's an FIA thing. At this point, the top 3 cars will go through tech to have their compliance checked. So this is where those checks that we did on Wednesday, this is where that all comes into play, because we should know that the car will pass, right? If we did everything correctly. If you don't check it on Wednesday, you're kind of sweating bullets in tech, hoping that everything is right. So that's why that Wednesday tech is so important. So they go through tech, they're checking ride height, they're checking weight to make sure that the cars meet the minimum weight requirements. Sometimes they check camber on the tires. For those who don't know, a little negative camber unlocks a lot of grip. So we love negative camber in this. Not like the stance boys with like 14 degrees. You're talking like 3 or 4 degrees is a really good spot to be in for like a really grippy setup. So they check ride heights. Sometimes they'll check the angle of our wing. A lot of it is random. The ride height and the weights are checked every time. All of the other stuff is kind of at random, or if another competitor's like, hey, he's doing a thing. So, yeah, long day, right? But it's not over. We have to now prep for the race, which happens in a couple of hours. Sometimes you've got 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes you only have 45 minutes to an hour. And you got to hope that there wasn't a big crash in qualifying involving your car. Right, Jerry? That was not his fault. So after qualifying, they come back. They get the full checklist. Again, seeing a pattern here, we do a checklist every time we work on the car. Full checklist, nut and bolt check, fuel, tires, wipe down, get the driver back in the car, and get to pre-grid. Pre-grid opens about 45 minutes before the session starts and closes about 15 minutes before the session starts. It's a balancing act. You want to get there early enough to not be late, but you also don't want the car and the driver heat soaking in that pre-grid line. So it's a delicate balance. We try and get there just a couple of minutes before it closes, enough that we're not rushing and stressing ourselves out. The grid workers will give us a 10, a 5, and a 1 minute warning. At the 1 minute warning, we pretty much scoot and get ourselves to pit lane. The drivers will go out into pit lane and form in a 2x2 formation in the same order that they qualified. So when the time comes, you'll see the safety car start to roll, and the drivers will follow the safety car out. We do 2 formation laps. Now, a formation lap is a slow lap where you'll see the drivers weaving the cars to try and generate heat into the tires, get the tires up to temperature, to get the tires up to that hot target pressure that we worked on the last 2 days. So you're starting to see how the preparation for the weekends is all kind of coming together to give us the most successful race possible. So you'll see the drivers weaving to get temperature in their tires. They're only going about 50-55 miles an hour behind the safety car, so they're not going very fast. 2 formation laps. About halfway through the second, race control will ask the drivers to pack up and pair up. All right, pack up, pair up, pack up, pair up. Which basically is a 2x2 formation. No more weaving. You've got to pack up and you've got to get side by side. And we do a rolling start. So the safety car will sprint off. Usually a couple of turns before the final turn, the safety car will sprint off and come into the pit lane. And the pole sitter, the overall pole sitter, will set the pace and basically pace everybody 55 miles an hour all the way up to the green flag. SRO does all rolling starts. I know Pirelli World Challenge used to do a rolling start and a standing start. No more. It's all rolling starts now. Each class, there's 3 classes in Touring Car America. Each class gets its own green flag. Watching my vlogs, you'll see or hear me say TCX is green. That's the class ahead of us. So we don't go on their green. We got to wait. I'll say green, green, green when the touring car class goes. Green, green, green. Go, 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 go. And then TCA behind will also get its own green. The drivers can't always see the green flag. So that's why we call it to them over the radio. It's just a bit of a redundancy so that they see it and they hear it at the same time. The green flag is not decided by the flagger or race control. The green flag is decided by the pole sitter. So if you're a fan of Formula One, it's a lot like a safety car restart in Formula One, where the pole sitter will set the pace, and then when the pole sitter is ready to go, not whenever he wants to go, because there's a zone where they have to start. It's between two cones or whatever. But whenever the pole sitter decides to go is when the green flag flies, and that gives them kind of a jump on everybody else. And that's just how SRO does it with rolling starts. So it's a lot like a safety car restart in Formula One. It works great if you're the pole sitter. Even if you're behind, you don't really, you'll see two distinct lanes and you'll see them take off together, so that it's not really a huge advantage to get that jump. And sometimes you even want to be starting in second because it'll put you on the inside for turn one. So as long as you're on the front row, it's good. But you'll see once they pass the start finish line, you'll see everybody kind of fan out and start getting a little aggressive because the race has officially begun. So the race is a 40-minute race. This gives us enough time to do somewhere in the range of like 17 to 20 laps usually, as long as we're not inundated by safety cars and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, once that green flag flies, it's up to the driver to go for it, do what he's got to do. Throughout the race, the car chiefs will be feeding information to the drivers, things like their pace, good sectors, bad sectors, delta to the cars ahead, delta to the car behind, really wherever the fight is. Reminder to get into the drafts as a faster class goes by, and just general motivation. Racing is as much of a mental sport as it is a physical sport, and sometimes telling a driver that he is faster than the car ahead, whether or not it's true, will make him faster than the car ahead. Just that little bit of placebo, that little bit of motivation is enough to actually make the driver faster. So it's a cool little trick I like to use. I don't like to ask the driver to drive faster because they usually end up driving harder. But if you tell them they're faster, they'll believe it, and they'll naturally become faster because they believe it. It's really weird how it works. It's a neat little trick that I like to use, and it's definitely safer than saying, "Hey, you're slow, go faster," because that doesn't work. You can't go faster by driving faster. So once the 40-minute timer runs out, the checker flag flies for the next time that the TCX leader passes. So the overall leader gets the checkered flag, and then everyone behind him gets the checkered flag as well. The top 3 cars from each class will go to the podium. I should clarify. The top 3 drivers from each class go to the podium. The car chiefs stay with the cars and have to await data collection and then get the cars to tech inspection, park for May, and go through all of the same scrutineering that we went through earlier in the day after qualifying. When the cars are in park for May, we are not allowed to touch the cars. We're not allowed near the cars. We can't even look at the cars. Don't go in. Don't go close. Stay away from the cars. I know better. They have a pen set up with steel barricades, and the cars are all in the middle and we are all around the edge, and there are SRO officials kind of dropped throughout to make sure that nobody has any funny business going on after the race is over, to affect the classification and to affect the car's compliance. Eventually, one car at a time and under the supervision of a tech official, we will be instructed to pump the fuel out of the cars. So we have a pump out hose, we have a jug, and we have to basically remove the fuel from the car. The idea here is that they want to test the fuel. So we must provide at least 2 kilograms of fuel for SRO to test to make sure that we're using the spec fuel for the series. Basically, everybody in the series uses the same fuel. But also, they want us to pump out the tank entirely because fuel can't be used as ballast. So fuel can't be used towards your minimum weight. The car has to meet minimum weights with the fuel tank empty. So You'll see us all kind of huddled around the car at this point. We're pumping the fuel into a jug. Got to have an extra guy there with a fire extinguisher just for safety regulations. And we will pump the car dry and then push it across the tech scales to check that minimum weight and the ride heights. So as long as all the compliance checks are good, we get to keep our trophy and we get to keep our podium. In our series, you really don't see a lot of funny business. The rule set is so strict and the homologations are all locked. So the homologation is like the parts that are on the car and the way the parts that are installed. So all of that is locked down and you can't really do anything to that. And it's all pretty well known throughout. So you really can't do anything funny to these cars without it being caught pretty easily. Occasionally you will see a tech failure. You know, sometimes the car chief wasn't able to provide the required 2 kilos of fuel. I know the last time you saw me, I was in tech. We passed. Our competitor didn't, so we're starting on pole. This usually isn't anything nefarious. It's most of the time just a mistake by the crew, either calculations for fuel or installation of the fuel. There was some drama in the beginning of the season with the TCX cars and wing angles. So, you know, sometimes things are caught, but generally the cars, there's not a lot you can do to these things. So generally we don't see a whole lot of tech failures and a whole lot of disqualifications, which is good. It speaks for the series. It speaks for the competitors. You know, nobody wants to win by cheating. You know, it doesn't feel good. You know, you want to win by beating the competitor fair and square. So it's just, it's a dumb thing to do, cheating, and I'm glad that we don't see more tech failures. Just it speaks to how good our competition is and you know, how honest everybody is. So now the cars will finally come back to the tent, and this is kind of the best time of the weekend because as long as we did get a couple of podiums, everybody is happy, everybody's high-fiving, everybody's celebrating. You know, the drivers have their trophies, they're taking pictures with their families and stuff like that. It's a great time because it's the culmination of 4 or 5 days of, you know, work and stress and thinking and math and effort and blood, sweat, and tears and all that cheesy stuff. It's kind of the culmination of all of that into this climax. But we are not done. We have a race tomorrow. So again, full checklist, tires, fuel, nut and bolt check, wipe down. The car has to be, again, fully prepped for Sunday's race 2. This is usually the latest night for us because the cars have been under the most stress they've been under all weekend, and we have to prep them for the next day. So, you know, sometimes there's body work to be done. Hopefully not, but it's touring car racing, so it happens. So there's just a little extra work to be done generally on Saturday nights. So this is a late night at the track and an early morning on Sunday. Sunday, race 2 and loadout. Sunday is generally an early alarm. We're usually the first or second session out on track, so we have an early wake-up call. We get to the track nice and early. Hopefully we have done all of our heavy work the night before and the cars are ready to go. Aside from tire pressures, we want to set tire pressures as close to the session as possible for accuracy. But everything else should be done, squared away, buttoned up, and ready to go for race number 2. If there's time before the session, you'll see us begin to start packing up the stuff that we will no longer be using for the weekend. Things like the setup pad, the scales and the strings and all that kind of stuff. We don't have any more track sessions. We're not using that stuff anymore. Even most of the toolboxes, usually we'll leave like 1 or 2 out, but most of the toolboxes can be packed away. A few things, just anything that we're not going to be using for the day can begin to be packed up as long as we have time. But again, just like yesterday, we will roll to grid near its close so that the car is not heat soaking, but with enough time that we're not stressing the driver out before his race. 10-minute warning, 5-minute warning, 1-minute warning. Hopefully the driver is buckled in by that 5-minute warning. We want him ready to go, gloves on, helmet, the whole deal at the 5-minute warning so that he can just zen out and get ready to go for the race. They go to pit lane. They do the 2x2 formation, safety car dispatch, 2 formation laps, the weaving, the green flags, the 40-minute race, all of the same stuff from yesterday. Checker falls, and the weekend is not over. Ha, got you there. The weekend is not over. The checker flag falls. Top 3 go to the podium, spray the champagne. We go to Park for May. We have our cars poked and prodded by the tech officials. And as long as everything is good, we get to keep our trophy. After tech, we will go back to the tents. And this is like the hectic time because we want to pack up and load out, but everybody's still in celebration mode and the trophy mode and champagne mode. So it's a weird sort of like, everything's great, good job everyone, but let's get the hell out of here. So like we'll be celebrating but packing, and it's just it's a different vibe from Saturday night. Not bad, just different. We will start by packing toolboxes, getting them off to the side. We have to pull up the floor. All of the stuff that we set up just a couple of days ago has to get taken apart, broken down, and repacked into the trailer. We do a team system. We've got 6 guys basically on each trailer. Everybody's got a position. Everybody knows their job and their goal. And as long as everyone pulls their own weight, we can usually pack up and be out of there within like 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes it takes 6. It's just, it's a thing. But yeah, it's kind of the end of the weekend. Everybody's exhausted. Everybody's sweating. Everybody's hot. Everybody just wants to go home. It's like when you go on a road trip, the way there is awesome, and then the way home just sucks. It's kind of like the drive home from a road trip. So everybody's just like, no. And it's, but we get it done. We get the trailers loaded, and we get the hell out of there. At this point, we have done all of our hugging, all of our fist bumping, all of our high fives. The fly-in guys will get into the rental vans. The truckers will get into the trucks and make their way back to headquarters. Our team is based in Virginia at the VIR Raceway, which is kind of cool. We've got a shop right there on the VIR grounds. So yeah, the truckers will make their way back to our shop at VIR. The flying guys will get on their planes. Once we get to the airport, we kind of scatter a bit because, depending on the airport, the gates might be separated by terminals. So we all kind of scatter and go our own ways at that point. Again, get on the plane, get home. Monday morning comes real quick for those of us who work full-time jobs. And that is the anatomy of a pro race weekend. Like I said, I vlog every time we go away, and you can check that out. Click this box here to see the playlist. I've got 3 seasons now worth of videos. This orange wheel here, click that to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And yeah, and that's it. I love you guys. I'll see you next Taco Tuesday.